No other family on Jersey Shore is as involved with the show as Vinny's family, but despite that, we still have no idea who Vinny's dad is at all. According to Vinny, he just doesn't want to be on TV. But is that actually what's happening? Or is there a darker truth that Vinny's family is trying to hide? Listen closely, because this story is hard to believe. There are many theories out there about Vinny's dad, and the truth is that that's actually all we really have. Theories. We don't even know what his name is, and that's actually really crazy. It's usually the case with reality TV that some of the family members of the stars just don't want to be on the show. But if they're a close or important family member, we usually at least know something about them. Even if they don't appear on screen, they usually get talked about at least a little. And it's really unusual that there's not even a name for us to work with. And that's what makes the situation with Vinny's dad really interesting. Because the thing is, Vinny actually did mention him once. People had obviously been asking questions about his dad, so Vinny just decided to answer them. Well, at least some of them. He explained why his dad never appeared on the show, and what he said was actually pretty shocking because of how unexciting it was. He said that his dad had actually been living in the same house with him the whole time. This was back when Vinny shared a house with his mom Paula, and the one time Vinny opened up about his dad, he actually revealed that his dad had been living in that same house with them. Vinny said that his dad's space was downstairs in the house. He'd apparently been around a lot, even during filming, and he just somehow managed to avoid all the cameras every time because he really does not appear on the show even once. And it's crazy to think that he had been right there just behind the cameras. But to be fair, it probably wouldn't be that hard to avoid the cameras. He could just stay hidden in a room they weren't filming in. And also, if they did accidentally get him on film, he could just tell the producers that he didn't want to be in the show. They probably even knew about this since he was living in the house they were filming in. It would probably have been something that everyone on the team was aware of, that Vinny's dad just didn't want to be in the show. But that's if what Vinny said is actually true. And I really don't want to accuse Vinny of lying here. I think he probably was telling the truth, or at least there's a good chance that he was. But something about the whole thing just seems a little bit off. It just seems like if what Vinny said is true, how come we don't at least know his dad's name? Usually we at least know that much about the family members who don't want to be involved with the show. Even if the name is never mentioned on the show, it's usually not that hard to find it out. And more often than not, someone on Reddit will find out their name and share it with everyone. But that's just not the case with Vinny's dad. And I don't think it's because people just weren't looking either, because Vinny's dad is just such an obvious missing piece in the whole Jersey Shore story. We know Vinny's mom, we know his uncle, and we even know his sisters. And they're such important characters too, especially Paula and Uncle Nino. So obviously, there have always been questions about his dad, and we never got even a single word about him. So I think people over on Reddit have definitely tried to find out info about Vinny's dad, but they just couldn't do it. And that's what's interesting to me, especially since we know where he lives, or at least lived at some point. That should make it even easier to find him, right? Well, except if it wasn't true, and that's where a lot of the theories come in. One of them is that Vinny's dad is actually involved with the mafia, and that's the reason he can't really be on TV. Because the thing is, if he really was in the mafia, he'd have to be super careful to keep his identity private. It could be really bad to have his real name publicly linked to his face, and if that information was aired on TV, there's no way that wouldn't turn against him really badly. And it could also be really dangerous for Vinny and the rest of the family. Because if Vinny's dad's enemies knew about his family, they could decide to use them against him. And who knows what could happen to Vinny, Paula, Vinny's sisters, and everyone else. So if Vinny's dad really was in the mafia, it would be really important for him to keep that part of his life separate from his family life. But that's obviously all just speculation. There's no actual evidence that Vinny's dad is in the mafia. It would explain why he never even gets talked about on the show, but it's not the only theory out there. Another one is that maybe Vinny's dad isn't actually alive anymore, because that would definitely mean he couldn't be on the show. But then the question is, why would Vinny lie about his dad being alive? Obviously, there could always be reasons he might want to do that, but it almost seems even more far-fetched than Vinny's dad being in the mafia, and that was already a pretty wild theory. And I mean, we could sit around all day thinking of theories about why Vinny's dad isn't on the show, but it's always possible that the truth is just what Vinny said about him, and that it's really nothing deeper than that. And the thing is, some people over on Reddit even think that he actually did appear on the show one time. The moment happens in season 3 of Jersey Shore Family Vacation. When Vinny has his Chippendales debut, everyone comes to watch and support him. Even Paula is there, and she's sitting next to a man that we've never seen before. He never gets introduced and doesn't appear again after this, but a lot of people think that's actually Vinny's dad. It would make sense for him to come to support Vinny on a big day like that, especially if they're living really close together and are on good terms like Vinny said. Although he also said that Paula Paula and his dad are separated, so I don't know if they would come together and sit next to each other like a couple. But then again, Vinny did say that his dad shares a house with Paula. Even if they live in different parts of the house, they've got to be on good terms for that to work. And also, even though the relationship might be over, they still have one thing in common. They're both Vinny's parents, so it makes sense that they would come to support him together at his show's opening night. It could be kind of like going to a school play to support your kid, except this was a spicier Chippendales performance instead. I'm personally not sure if I believe that it actually was Vinny's dad sitting next to Paula at the show, but there's actually one more theory about Vinny's dad that I've seen on Reddit, and this one's actually the most interesting one to me. Even though it might not be obvious why at first, it actually sounds a little mundane, especially compared to the mafia theory. But I've seen some people saying that Vinny's dad is actually a barber. According to them, he even owned his own barbershop some time ago. And if this is actually the case, it means that Vinny most likely wasn't actually lying at all when he explained why his dad isn't on the show. But what makes this theory more exciting than the others is that people actually claim to know Vinny's dad personally. So far, I've only seen 2 people say this, which isn't many, so it's not like the barber theory is confirmed, but they both claim that they're actually Vinny's dad's customers. According to them, his name is also Vinny. And I mean, I can totally see Vinny being named after his dad. But what do you guys think? Do you think Vinny's dad is actually living a normal life as a barber, or do you believe one of the crazier theories? Let me know in the comments below.